Welcome to CBC Windsor News at 6. I'm Meg Roberts. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us tonight. Opioid overdoses have surged across Windsor, Essex, which has public health asking the community for help. Plus, the Ford government wasting no time. This Thursday, ready-to-drink beverages will be available for purchase at grocery stores. And a 100-year-old car is up for sale, along with original paint and tires. It also comes with a century worth of stories. A significant number of opioid overdoses has prompted several warnings in our area. The Windsor Essex Health Unit on high alert and asking for the community's help. In the week of June 30th to July 7th, there were 22 reported overdoses at local emergency rooms. 17 involved fentanyl, the highest number in a single week this year. Since the beginning of June, the Windsor Essex Community Opioid and Substance Strategy has issued 5 opioid overdose alerts.
This is certainly a sustained spike over a 6-week period. That would represent the highest saturation of spikes that we've seen over a short period of time while we've been monitoring overdoses in our community and issuing these alerts. So it's certainly something that is relatively unprecedented in terms of the volume that we've seen over the past 6 weeks. And so it's something that we're certainly very concerned about.
As a community member who's lost a child to this crisis, it makes me extremely frustrated and angry. It makes me feel extremely helpless. And then that turns into more determination to do something about this and to educate the public so that they too understand that this is not going to go away, and that the current drug supply is so incredibly toxic that unless we all band together to look at an integrated strategy for harm reduction and treatment in this province, and if not in this country, then we are going to continue to see young people, particularly, not only homeless people, not only people with substance use disorder, but youth who experiment with drugs, dropping dead on first use.
The health unit is looking for some help. People who experienced or saw an overdose can share details with the health unit. They can submit information on the Windsor Essex Community Opioid and Substance Strategy website, like what substance they were taking, where they overdosed, and whether naloxone worked. Though anecdotal, the health unit hopes this can help them better warn others. Well, it's been nearly 3 years since a massive gas explosion rocked downtown Wheatley, injuring 20 people and destroying a few buildings. There are 3 known gas wells in the area where the explosion occurred, but a report coming before council tonight is asking to explore for more abandoned wells. Over the last month, 9 buildings in the town center were demolished to allow for work to begin.
What we're going to do, we're going to remove the basements. We're going to excavate the entire block to just confirm or deny, are there any additional wells on this property? And part of that work is we need to be prepared for any outcome that we find. We could dig up the whole site and find nothing. We could find an old water well that has no gas, and we need to be able to remediate it quickly. Or, the worst case scenario is we do find another well that's emitting gas, and we need to have all the equipment and personnel on site to get control of that well so that we can eliminate the hazards.
The report coming to council says the work could cost between $2 and $6 million. If they do find additional wells, the director of public works says they need access to oil rigs. Part of the reason the work is so expensive. Planning for the work has already begun. If approved by council tonight, they would plan to have excavators on site the first week of September. The Ford government is speeding up the timeline for grocery stores to expand their alcohol sales. Ready-to-drink cocktails will be allowed in stores as soon as Thursday. As Queen's Park reporter Lorenda Redekop explains, it comes as the strike by 9,000 LCBO workers drags on.
On a rainy picket line, striking LCBO workers are frustrated by the government's latest decision to allow expanded alcohol sales in grocery stores faster.
It strikes me as another example of not negotiating in good faith. There have been a lot of signs that the province is waiting for this strike to happen. their level of planning, their level of preparation shows me that they were committed to it.
Grocery stores already selling beer and wine can add ready-to-drink cocktails as of Thursday, as well as beer in larger quantities, 2 weeks sooner than planned. The LCBO has said ready-to-drink cocktails are the sticking point for the union, that it won't agree to talks unless the province changes its expansion plans. Premier Doug Ford was asked about that.
That ship has sailed. We're moving forward with it, but they need to come to the table. We put the LCBO put an offer on the table. We have yet to see the leadership of OPSU come to the table.
The union, OPSU, says the Premier should be pushing the LCBO to get back to the table. It accuses Ford of interfering with bargaining by these sped-up changes, focusing on what it calls his harmful agenda that rewards large companies. One local distillery that makes a ready-to-drink cocktail fears only the biggest drink companies will benefit from this accelerated rollout.
Conversations with grocery stores, I've been reaching out, haven't necessarily gone anywhere. So, I understand that there's this encouragement to fast track that. I'm not understanding of who the craft producers are that are going to be on those shelves.
He has those same concerns when it comes to the rest of the booze expansion plans, once corner stores are added.
I'm speaking with a cross-province convenience store. They were looking for $250,000 as a listing fee just to get on their shelf. And so who is going to have that? It's going to be some of the big players.
He just wants the strike to end to avoid layoffs, saying sales are way down without the LCBO. As for those ready-to-drink cocktails in grocery stores, you likely won't be able to buy them by Thursday. A spokesperson for the grocers says that's just the first date they can order them, and it'll take time to get them on store shelves. Lorenda Radicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
According to Statistics Canada, fewer Canadians are using public buses and trains since the pandemic. But a new type of public transportation is seeing huge growth in Canadian cities. That's bike sharing, which is renting a bike using an app. It's taken off in bigger cities like Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver, but not so much here in Windsor, with a lot more e-scooters available than e-bikes. Laurie Newton from Bike Windsor Essex told Windsor Morning why.
When the consultants developed the study and recommendations for a bike share in the city of Windsor, they came up with a series of things that the city needed to do in order to ensure its success. And we basically did none of them. So, for example, the three things that we really need to have a successful bike share are topography, which we have naturally, connectivity to public transit, and also infrastructure. So we have not really in the city of Windsor moved forward with infrastructure. So where do you take the bikes?
The town of Essex announced some cycling news of its own today. It's received close to $3 million from Ottawa to improve pedestrian and cyclist infrastructure along County Road 50. According to the town, the project will connect users to historic sites, the countywide active transportation system network, and local businesses. It will include almost 6 kilometers of 1.5 meter wide paved shoulders. The town says that is the most affordable option.
Why not a sidewalk? Why not a bike lane? Why not? Yeah.
We've got a mixture of things. On some roads we've got paved shoulders. On some we've got sidewalks. Depends if you've got a rural or urban type area. In a rural area you can have drainage. And that's easy. And then you can have curbs and sidewalks or bike lanes. Where you don't have the drainage and it's more rural with ditches, it's a lot easier and more cost effective to put in paved shoulders.
Earlier this month, the Ford government scrapped plans for a deposit return program for non-alcoholic drink containers such as pop cans and water bottles. Today, an industry group that represents soft drink brands is pushing back on the reversal. It says the program would prevent billions of recyclables from going to landfills, adding that the plan was trashed because of big grocery. Brittany Billette has more.
In Ontario, billions of these containers wind up in dumps and incinerators annually. The province has the worst recycling rates in all of Canada for non-alcoholic beverage containers. Every other province, save Manitoba, has a refundable deposit on cans and bottles of juice, pop, and water.
We're way behind the rest of the country. Unacceptable.
The Canadian Beverage Association represents around 60 soda brands, including Pepsi and Coke. On Monday, it released a study that found a refundable 10-cent deposit would bring a 90% recycling rate if big grocery stores accept the empties.
The more locations you have, the more efficient the system is, the higher the return rate.
Ontario already has targets for the recovery and recycling of non-alcoholic beverage containers, 75% by 2026 and 80% by 2030. The current rate is about 50%. Some provinces, such as Alberta and BC, have recycling rates that are over 80%. But big grocers say implementing a deposit and return system in Ontario would cost shoppers too much money. The Retail Council of Canada, whose members include Loblaws and Costco, said it fully supported the Ontario government's decision. In a statement, a spokesperson wrote, "We applaud the government's approach because it avoids costs to customers while still holding companies to high targets. Twice now, the Canadian Beverage Association has proposed solutions that would see customers paying the recycling bills of companies like Coke and Pepsi, and this doesn't sit well with us." Environmental advocates and the beverage industry accuse big grocery chains of pressuring the government.
I think it's frustrating in the amount of power that they seem to have and the amount of influence that they seem to have over policy.
We invested a year's worth of time and energy and really good research, get that canceled last minute without any consultation on where we see it. This is not fair.
Small independent grocers say they can't afford to give up retail space to accommodate returned empties.
We pushed back very aggressively on the idea that we had the space or the ability, or we should be taking these dirty containers back into the store. Are we willing to look at other options? Absolutely, but not return to retail.
CBC News requested an interview with Environment Minister Andrea Kangin about why she canceled the deposit return. Her team declined that request and instead sent a statement. It said the plan would have cost too much money for families and small businesses, but if retailers and producers wanted to come up with a cost-efficient system, it would welcome it. Brittany Billette, CBC News, Toronto.
A local car enthusiast is selling a 100-year-old vehicle. Video producer Mike Evans met up with the owner and even joined him for a ride.
This is a 1924 Model T touring sedan from Argentina.
Where was it built and how did it end up in Argentina?
The car was built in Detroit, assembled in Florida, shipped to Uruguay, stolen out of Uruguay and brought into Argentina and used in a bank robbery in Argentina, and that's where it stayed in a compound for 30 some odd years.
And it does have bullet holes in it. Tell me about the bullet hole, Wayne.
It has a 45 caliber bullet hole right here that goes through the floor on the passenger side. That was from the bank robbery, yes.
Okay, so one of the other things that is a standout feature of this vehicle is that it hasn't been restored in 100 years.
No, this car all has the original paint on it still, the original wheels, and the tires have been changed, obviously. I've gone through a few sets of tires in the last 12 years, but yeah, the car is virtually unrestored.
Talk about the kind of reactions you get when you take it out onto the road.
Oh, people love it. They love it. They take pictures, they wave.
Why do you think you're selling it now? Why is it the time?
Well, I've enjoyed it for 12 years, and I think it's time that somebody else have some fun with the car.
What are some of the adventures that you've gotten into with this car over the last 12 years?
I've driven it to the Dream Cruise in the United States, all the way to Pontiac, Michigan 3 times. I've had Santa in it. I've been to every car show from Amherstburg to Essex to Bell River. Quite often I come home, my cheeks are sore from smiling so much. You're really temperamental today.
What kind of gas does it take?
It just runs on regular gas.
And what's it cost to fill it?
About $22.
We haven't been out that long and you're already getting some waves from people.
Yeah, quite often. It's fun. Thank you. That's what I get all the time. How can you not smile?
Colette, how cool to be able to ride in that vehicle, but I'm thinking it would have been a hot one today because there obviously is no air conditioning.
Yes, but the breeze, right? The breeze through your hair.
And like he said, the smiles maybe would make up for the sweating.
Yeah, and I don't think I could stop also get off that horn. Like I would just blow that horn all the time. I'm not sure how folks would take to that, but
I like it, Colette. They could hear you coming, you know, going down Olette, just on the horn the whole time.
There you go. We're on our way. Yeah, let's talk about if we're on our way through this heat. Well, a little bit more to go, but I do want to at least show you kind of what's happening across the province and a little bit beyond. But really, just if we focus on Ontario, to the north, some cooler air that's in place. We've got that ridge and heat dome to the west, and that jet stream sort of coming around has been bringing these bursts of energy, these clusters of thunderstorms we have, still sitting at 30 degrees. It's 32 in Chicago, and we know we've got some heat in place in terms of the humidity and how it feels as well, with those humidex values often approaching 40 anyway. So the heat warning is going to stick around. It's kind of a nearly stationary front, but the cold front is eventually going to sweep through, and when it does, it'll take some of that moisture, that feel stickiness to the air away with it. But a few other readings here: Sarnia at 28, Chatham-Kent 27. The temperatures dipped down as some of those heavier rains and storms moved through, especially with significant amounts of rain earlier today through London, 40, 60, in some cases even close to 90 millimeters there. And there's a look at those humidex values near 40 for Windsor, and as well some of that flash flooding we'd seen in areas of southwestern Ontario, and most recently a little further east towards Burlington, as that kind of last batch of that particular cluster has been working its way through. We're into a drier slot, but we know there's going to be more to come riding along that jet stream. And so with that, I think we'll have a quieter evening. You're kind of in the clear, in the sense, if you want to get outside and do some things or spend some time on the patio this evening. But watch out in the overnight hours. That's when the next round is going to be moving through. So think after 3 a.m. To the early morning hours, and that kind of moves through. But there may be a few more pop-ups into the afternoon hours. Okay, there should be less of it. It's the bulk of it's actually going to be overnight and early morning. But here and there, I've still put even about a 30% chance for the odd shower as we kind of roll even beyond Tuesday into Wednesday. Then that cooler feel. Temperatures overnight tonight, again, not exactly cool. And so those are another reason why we have the heat warning. It's not just the daytime highs, it's that we don't get the break at night. 30 for tomorrow, feeling like 40. There's that 30% chance into Wednesday. And a couple of days, Meg, it's not like it's cool. It's just a little cooler.
That's cool for us at this point, Colette.
You got it.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Well, nice look at Detroit on a sunny evening. News from the United States has been a big topic of conversation here in Canada. We share the latest on Trump coming up after the break. Donald Trump is now the Republican presidential nominee. He has been the presumptive nominee for months, but it was the vote today at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee that made it official. CBC's Chris Reyes has more from the convention.
An eventful first day here at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The striking of the gavel officially opening the week-long gathering. House Speaker Mike Johnson getting things started with a rundown of convention rules.
Without objection, the reading of the roll call of states for presenting the names for candidates for nomination is dispensed with, and non-delegates shall be permitted to make nominating and seconding speeches.
Following that, state by state, the roll call, with delegates officially pledging their votes to nominate Donald Trump for president. Close to 2,500 delegates are on the floor from around the country. Trump very quickly got past the finish line to secure the nomination, to great cheers.
Let's make it official. Accordingly, the chair announces that President Donald J. Trump, having received a majority of the votes entitled to be cast at the convention, has been selected as the Republican Party nominee for President of the United States.
After that nomination, another major development. Donald Trump posting on social media his VP pick, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance. Trump wrote, J.D. honorably served our country in the Marine Corps, graduated from Ohio State University in 2 years, summa cum laude, and is a Yale Law School graduate. He went on to say J.D. has had a very successful business career in technology and finance. Soon after, Vance arrived at the convention and greeted Republican delegates. From President Biden, a quick reaction.
He's a clone of Trump on the issues. A clone of Trump on the issues. So I don't see any difference.
Vance rose to prominence after he published a best-selling memoir turned movie, Hillbilly Elegy, all about his upbringing in a working-class family in Ohio. The crowd at the convention in Milwaukee chanted the senator's name soon as the announcement came out. Trump arrived in Milwaukee Sunday night. He is slated to formally accept the nomination of his party for president from that podium on Thursday. Chris Reyes, CBC News, Milwaukee.
The attempted assassination of Donald Trump has raised questions about security for politicians in the U.S. When asked about security for politicians in this country, Public Safety Minister Dominic LeBlanc said there's no cause for concern.
I have every confidence that the RCMP take all the steps necessary to protect Canadian politicians. Yesterday, I convened a briefing with the Commissioner of the RCMP, the Director of CSIS, the Deputy Minister of Public Safety. They went through the threat landscape. They talked to me about the additional vigilance that they've put in place since the assassination attempt on former President Trump Saturday evening.
Well, it's not for everyone, but running is seeing an increase in popularity. We have that story coming up after the break. ranks of committed runners are growing thanks to increased interest among people in their 20s and 30s. Paula Duhacek took to the streets of Calgary for a closer look at this trend.
A few months ago, this was a small, intimate running group. Now, not so much.
We're really just here to move our bodies and meet new people, and I think maybe that's the culture of the way running is going now and why it's growing so fast.
Across the country, people are pounding the pavement in a big way. Marathons in Vancouver and Toronto selling out in record numbers. Calgary hosted its largest marathon in a decade.
Overall, it looks like participation's up about 16%, which is absolutely awesome considering it actually was on the downward spiral before the pandemic.
This isn't the first time running's had a moment.
It seems just about everybody is doing it these days, running around a gymnasium, a park, or the neighborhood streets.
Back in the 70s, Canadians discovered running and loved it.
I like nature. I like seeing people.
We chase ladies.
It's a sociable way to get some exercise.
Today's runners say they're also drawn to the social aspect.
It's the middle of the week. It's a good way to meet new people when you're new to the city.
Great people, great activity. Get outdoors, have some fun.
The blue labeled shoes are for feet that tend to roll to the inside of your ankle.
This running room manager says for many, running is a pandemic habit that's stuck around.
Gyms and pools were closed, that a lot of new people were coming to the sport, learning to run outside for the first time maybe and learning that they liked it.
Plus, amid the high cost of living, it's one way to get a workout without breaking the bank.
It's just running, like all I need is a pair of running shoes. I already got that. I don't have to pay for a gym membership.
Workout trends tend to come and go, and it's not clear whether the boom will fizzle or flourish. But this running group has no plans of slowing down. Paula Duhacek, CBC News, Calgary.
Hundreds of people carried the Olympic torch through Paris today and yesterday, and crowds lined the streets to watch. About 10,000 people were chosen to carry the iconic flame across France. Many of the participants were athletes, while others represented areas such as arts, culture, volunteering. The torch's journey will end on July 26, when it will be used to light the Olympic cauldron on the River Seine. That's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website. Thanks so much for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow night.